probably like
Yeah, he built the city
$0.03
through.
No, I know. He's charging us $5.
Yeah.
Okay, that was recorded.
Are we ready?
Whenever you
All righty. So at this time, I call this High Spring Community Redevelopment Agency Budget Workshop to order June 18, 2015 at 6:30. Please stand for the invocation and follow the Pledge of Allegiance. Most gracious God, we just give you praise and thanks for just another wonderful day. And God, we just want to pray for those out in South Carolina, Lord. Just give them strength, Lord. Give them comfort, Lord. Let them know that you're still yet in control, God. So bless them right now in the sweet holy name of Jesus. Yes. And bless us as we come now to discuss the budget for the CRA. Just bless us with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Chair Williams.
Present.
Vice Chair Evans.
Here.
Member James.
Here.
Member Jamison.
Here.
Member Newcomb.
Present.
Member Weller.
Here.
Member Evans. Is that recording?
Yeah, you're in.
I just want to make
Twice.
Yeah, I am here.
He's not here the second time.
All right, thank you, ma'am. All right, this time I will discuss at this time there's no voting, just for discussion. The review the amended budget for 2014-2015 and to review the proposed budget for the year 2015-2016. All right, Madam Director, we turn over to you.
And this on? Hello? You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think it's coming from the speaker, but
All right, I handed out another sheet that said CRA 2014-15 budget amendment. That gave you a little bit more of a description. I will go through them, each of the differences that changed, but that way you can follow along, and if you have any questions, make a note of it so when we get to the discussion portion. So the budget amendment, we'll start with that. So one of the big changes was the salaries. Because I was not here when the budget year began and we did not have the public works service worker, the salary is being amended to reflect that that they were paid at that time. Likewise, all the FICA retirement, life and health insurance, workers' comp, all that is being reflected as well. On the next page, this is 101. Under contractual services, COHS, it was changed from 50,000 to 83,327, and that is based on the last cost allocation plan. And there is currently a cost allocation plan being drafted, and so that number will probably change because when the current cost allocation plan, the city manager was acting as CRA. But for right now, we have to change it back to that.
Right.
Under operating supplies, there was no budget for it this year, and so the 2,500 is just to represent what it actually is going to be. And then under capital outlay, the downtown parking project, that reflects the additional funding that was needed for the farmers market that you guys voted to approve. So that's the difference between the 25,000 and the 57,000. And I think that's most of the changes. Jenny says I have to talk slower and longer. But do you guys have any questions to talk about?
I think.
yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
From what I can recall, anyway, these are things that we've, other than maybe the the contractual services, everything else we've known about, that was gonna happen. Maybe I don't see any problem with what would be the amended budget for 2014, 15. It seems to be reflecting everything we had talked about.
Any other questions, comments?
I don't see it, but I guess our revenue's not gonna change.
It did go down a little bit, from the 80,000 that was, nope, it didn't go down. It didn't change it. The actual did go down a little bit, but it was just a minor
Okay.
change, so Jennifer didn't reflect.
Okay.
All right, so if we don't have any more discussion on that, we can go on to the budget. I'll talk slower. So we'll start with the revenue side of the budget. We are adjusting the revenues to reflect this year's actual revenues. So the TIF for the city of High Springs will be going down to 73,000, and the TIF for the county will be going down to 105.
What were they?
That's what they were this year.
Okay.
That's the actuals from this year.
Okay.
So 80 was what we thought we would
Right.
get.
Mm-hmm.
The actuals were 73 and the 105.
And I would guess that could change once we actually get the revenue in
Correct.
down the road.
Right.
Once
And
we get
I'm
into
sure-
that budget year.
Right. I'm sure it will too.
Yeah.
And then if you look at interest earned, that's supposed to be a +1 to appropriation of prior year funds. I wish we were making that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's an awful lot of interest.
But Jennifer will fix that.
Mhm.
It was just put in the wrong category. And this is to represent what we actually think that we will have. If the budget amendment, if everything is fulfilled, that's what we will have. In prior years, it wasn't really represented accurately. So this year, we're really trying to represent the accurate, what it is. You are supposed to account for everything.
Right.
So in this budget, you'll see that we're going to a zero base. So. All right, under staffing and wages, after speaking with the city manager and being this job, he is recommending that I go to 28 hours for the executive director position, which would be a .70. Currently, I'm a .5. And then talking with David at Public Works, currently we share a half-time service worker. He would like to make that position a full-time. Half of it would be for CRA, half of it would be for Public Works. The guy has been doing a fantastic job, but there is a backlog of projects in the CRA district that would definitely benefit from having a person dedicated to the CRA district, such as restriping the parking lots, making sure that the flowers are taken care of downtown, making sure that the watering of the Christmas tree is done, things like that is what this person will be doing.
I'm sorry, Ms. Mickle, I'm sorry.
I should really know that.
Yes, the city manager, what's his take on that? Because David, you're saying
Right.
David, but really it's the city manager and the commission.
As
Would
far
have to
as
approve
the
that
service
being
worker,
the
yes,
service worker.
yes, he's recommending it.
He is also
Yes.
recommending it.
May I ask a question? The proposed 2014-15 amended figure that we just looked at, I'm looking at 127,482 total operating costs. Why is it not the same on the operating expenditures on the next page that says amended FY Why is it different? It's 112 on that one. All these pages are numbered one of one,
Right.
so it's
Yeah.
sort of difficult.
Right, I know, they all print one of one, so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, on the second page,
okay, second page,
right, it says proposed FY 2014-15 amended
right.
operating expenditures,
Uh-huh.
total 127,000. Second page,
Okay, yes,
right?
uh-huh,
Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth page over.
okay,
If you look at the, if you look at the, this year's proposed, it's showing there's a $15,000 difference. And looking at that, it's what the one page that that the commissioner's pointing out is that it's missing 15,000.
correct.
That.
Correct. So what had happened is, so when I was speaking with Jennifer, we printed them not in order. So the first amended, she had left off the murals from the 15,000. And so if you look on there, under billboards, advertising and murals, the 15,000 is missing.
Right.
So so that was what was originally presented as the amended, but I had caught that, so I spoke with her and told her that when I did the amended here at this board, that we would have to add that 15,000 back in, and then she said that the city commission would also take care of that.
So that 112 should actually be showing 127.
Right.
It's just
Mhm.
isn't.
Right, the murals, but for some reason had just been
Okay.
accidentally left off.
Okay, that answers my question. I just couldn't figure out why the
Yeah.
two numbers was different.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I should have looked at it again.
I have to ask, I know, I told you guys earlier, budget was not my thing. So, I said, is it me or am I reading it wrong?
You know, it's okay. It took us 2 weeks to figure out that too. We have to go over it, so.
Okay,
Why they
we
were
together
matching.
then.
All right, so, if we don't have any other questions about the staffing, we'll move on to the operating expenditure. All right, if you look at professional services, it is increased from 4,000 this year to 13,000. That is in case we have to hire additional planning services for the CRA plan. Currently, we're working with the planning council that we have, but there's kind of a backlog there, and so in case they are unable to meet the timeline, we may need to hire additional services for that.
We would contract out.
Contract out.
And you will come back before the board before you do that, or it will
Oh,
be
yeah.
after the fact?
Oh, no, I would come back before you, because we would
Okay.
have to select a person. to do
Right.
it. Yes. And hopefully it won't have, I mean, I'm in talks with them as it is, it's just, there's some maps that they have to complete for us that are pretty time consuming.
I suspect we'll have to, because, you know, like you said, they're backlogged and I think they're a little slow on getting things done, because they are doing things for other
Yeah.
communities, and if we want to get this, we know we're on a tight timeline.
Yes.
Chair, I just want to point out on that $15,000 difference for the murals, I looked on our packet for the next week's meeting for the commission, and in the proposed amended budget, it's in there, the 15,000, so it's
Okay.
accounted for.
Good, thank you.
The contractual attorney service is going down just slightly. We haven't had a need for it this year, so I think we're going to end with lower than what the 5,000. So that's just reflected. That's just a slight decrease. And then the contractual service with the city, we have to keep it at that 83,000. But again, once that allocation plan is done, we will adjust that, and we're expecting it to be before the new budget year begins. So I'll bring it back to that time. Training and travel, I'm increasing it to 3,000. That is in case any of new board members want to go to any of the trainings as well, that we will have it in there for more people to attend. Everything else is staying pretty much the same. Some of it's going down a little bit to reflect actual costs from this year, but most of it's staying the same. The thing that is changing is the murals. This past year we spent $15,000. Going forward, I only put 10 in, just because of the other buildings that had been discussed are not in nearly the disrepair as the current mural building, and will not require as much preparation as these things have. So I don't think we will have to pay as much for somebody to fix it before they can actually paint it. And then music in the park, I would like to increase his budget. He's doing a fantastic job, and I would just like to support him a little more in that. And then the last thing is the downtown parking project. I've allocated $25,000 for parking and $10,000 for the Rails to Trails program.
The 10,000 for the Rails to Trails conversion, I mean, what does that 10,000 supposedly represent to happen?
If we decide to move forward before the state does, if we can get approval to pave just the section in the CRA.
Because it's going to cost a lot more than that.
Right.
To pave it.
Right, and it probably wouldn't be in this next year budget year.
Right.
So what we would do is we would roll it over to the next year. So we'd put 10,000 in this year and then another 10,000 in the next.
Because when I talked to DOT, if I remember right, and I didn't bring those figures with me, you could be looking, I think, close to 90,000 to pave. I'll get those, because if it would have to be done to DOT standards. Okay, I'll pull those figures. I mean, it's, obviously we can plan on that, but yeah, I'll get those figures for you.
Otherwise, we're looking at 9 years.
Yeah, we don't want to wait 9 years.
And then if you look down at the grants to others, that is keeping the 60,000 for the facade grants, and then 4,000 would be for community grants for projects that we feel are of value to support, but don't quite fall into another category. They can come and petition you as a board for those funds.
Yes, ma'am.
Just kind of going back to the service worker. With the fact that they've now taken up the rails, will our service worker be able, we will use our service worker to keep that area maintained, at least in our CRA area?
I mean, we'd have to get permission from CSX to do that, but if we did, yes, that is something that we could do.
Okay. Thank you, because I would not like, CSX is not going to keep it up.
No.
They just aren't.
No.
They'll let it go for a couple of months or more.
You mean they're not gonna come here and mow and make sure everything
I
looks
don't
good?
think so.
Everything's on a weekly basis.
They didn't do it when they owned it. So. Ms. Newcomb? Yes.
I know, I went on vacation, y'all forget that. I just wanted to comment on, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but the guy that came in and we approved for him to have some monies to do repair on the old Thomas House on Main Street, right next to the
Oh, yeah,
David
Graham.
That place is just looking wonderful, and I thought, boy, Mr. Turk Thomas, I hope you see how nice that looks. I don't know, how are we going to, that house is in such disrepair, and I know every time I come that way to come into the city, I think, oh my goodness, and then right across the street, they're trying to sell Maud Renfro's old 2-story building, and I think, oh my goodness, just, yeah. You know what I'm saying?
No, like, as long as you can just go and talk to them and say, you know, yeah, we've got this, we have money that if you want to come in for a grant to fix it up, you know.
He's afraid his taxes will go up. That's the whole reason behind it, but.
Well,
but we can't do
is it a
anything.
residential?
It is a residential
Well,
place.
we can always try, I don't think, I mean, you can fix your place up as long as you don't put any more buildings. If it's residential, I don't think the taxes would go up.
Not from painting.
Well, I mean, normal, I mean,
Fix
you know,
it.
Latcher raises everybody's
Oh,
taxes.
sure.
Okay, but I mean, just because you paint it and you put new siding on it and that type of thing, unless it's a commercial building.
You think that it would
There's
stay
no
the same?
alteration to the building.
Yeah, it's something to alter.
And they appraise it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can talk to him, because I know his church has certainly volunteered to do the work, you know, time and time again. But I am really pleased with Mr. Graham and the work that he has put into that. It's very nice.
And when I get to that point of the grants, I'll let you know how everybody's doing.
Okay.
They're doing great. And then if you look down under contingency, reserve for balance fund carry forward, there is 0. We will have carry forward, of course, but we really need to allot everything that we have going forward. And that, if we want to just put into carry forward, we need to put what it's carried forward for.
Right.
Not just
Gotcha.
to get it carried forward.
Okay, I got one question before we move on. I see for repair and maintenance on building, now what is that for, the $1,000? What building we speaking of?
That would be my office.
Okay.
You know, if I need to switch out a
What-
light or.
If everybody knows that, I think that you're now in the old school.
Yes, I moved into the old school.
So we know where to go to harasser at?
I'm sorry?
We know where to go to harasser at?
Yes.
We don't have to do it by phone?
Now, one of the things that's not in here, and it just came up, and that is the museum on Main Street that's coming, will be coming in 2016. The Smithsonian will be providing $6,000 towards that, but we have to, well, there's going to be more expenses to that, you know, and they're looking for matching, but matching doesn't necessarily mean dollars. It can be a combination of volunteer work and that type of thing. And I don't know if at this point, I guess once we get down to what we know it's going to cost, we could amend the budget at that point.
Correct, and that would be a perfect thing that could go into that $4,000. I did sit down with the Historic Society and their project manager today to help them draft the budget. We are way over 6,000. Well, they are way over 6,000 in kind, and as of right now, we don't know like what they're going to give us. So we'll give the museum as far as marketing materials. So there's no way to really determine at this point what the cost would be, but we could definitely come back in a minute.
Okay.
They won't find out until August.
Any more questions?
Let me just ask you, just to clarify on this one here, who maintains all the grass area, the concrete and so forth back there, CRA or the city?
The city.
So the concrete slab that's out there, to pressure wash that would be city's budget?
It is city property, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
One of the things that, and I don't know if the money's in there to do this or not, that we had talked about, and I'm just thinking of the budgetary things that we had talked about possibly starting. And one was the redoing of the sidewalks downtown. And I realized, you know, we would have to get some quotes in and some design samples in as to how that would be done. And the other is to come up with a, quote, master plan, if you will, for the park area, all that whole surrounding area out there. And I can't remember what the others are that we've looked at budgetary wise. How are those things being worked into this upcoming budget?
Into this upcoming budget, they weren't. As far as the park back here, that would have to start after our new plan is put in place, because that's going to be one of the things that we're going to be focusing on.
Okay.
That was not in the current plan, so we're not working on that per se.
Okay.
That would be in the next year's budget, but we could definitely move some money around from here, like the parking for downtown. While we have allotted the money this year, the $57 actually will not probably be used until next year. So that 25,000 we have in the current budget, we can allocate that to something else. Because we already will be doing parking down there with funds from this year.
But aren't we gonna have to, in order to, apply for our 2000, or the extension of our plan, we're gonna have to know at least an estimate, not just based by us pulling it out of the air here, but maybe an estimate from some professionals that will tell us what it's gonna cost to do certain things like this, doing the park, doing the sidewalks, that type of thing. So would we not, should we, and maybe that comes under professional services or something like that, that we would be pulling that stuff together really soon to be included in that.
It's not required for the plan. In talking to Carol Westmoreland a lot more, this 30-year plan, we need to be kind of generic.
Okay.
Don't attach a whole lot of dollar values to it. But what she recommends is that we submit a 5-year plan every 5 years to the county that would include that. So what we could work side by side while we're doing this plan to have a 5-year plan that we would send with the 30-year plan.
Okay.
But the actual 30-year plan is not meant to have any kind of dollars attached to it.
Sure, but within that 5-year plan, with a couple of things,
Right.
Lisa, that we were talking about,
Exactly.
we would have to have that information to go with it.
Correct. So we could definitely look at this
Okay.
budget and move it around.
Any other questions?
So can you, at this point, can you give us a little rundown of what you see us actually accomplishing next year based upon our budget,
Based on our budget,
the proposed budget?
the proposed budget, we will complete the 2 murals we currently have. We will have 2 more murals downtown. We'll have given out additional $60,000 in grant facade funding. I wanted to focus a little bit more next year on the residential side of it. This year we were heavy on the business, which is great, but there are some residential that could really benefit from it. We will have accomplished the farmers market pavilion and have the parking that goes along with that as well. And then we'll be doing more promotion of the different CRA projects, the different CRA businesses. So I increased our budget for that. Most promotional materials now are not that expensive. It's really focusing more on internet and Facebook and less print, so they don't cost as much. So we'll get our presence out there more. And that is the main thing. And then working more closely with the different community organizations so that we become known as a partner with the different organizations.
Right. I have another question under the executive director position where you're spelling out some additional duties of the executive director, where you're saying the executive director would assume director responsibility over the farmers market and that would be funded by the farmers market revenues?
Yes.
Can you explain it? Because the farmers market revenues do not bring in
Correct.
a lot of money.
Correct.
And it's a wash right now for
Correct.
the person. And what kind of responsibilities are you planning to take over on that?
So currently the thought with the city manager and the finance director is that there's not enough oversight of the farmers market on the city side of it. And that if we could put it under somebody at the city, then they're thinking that it would grow a lot more. I would take over the marketing side of the farmers market for them.
But whoever's there, and it could change because we've got
Right.
the contracts comes up soon. Anyway, but we would still have someone there on the day-to-day and responsible for dealing with the vendors and that type of thing?
Correct. We would still have a manager there, and
Okay.
she would do the day-to-day. It would just she would become a city employee at that point. So there's more accountability for how it is run.
Right.
that really changes how things, well, I'm a little leery at this point from what you're saying there. I don't know that I have a problem with someone overseeing, but as far, I don't want, farmer's market, I think, is a special entity, if you will. So I guess when we get into that, I'll bring it up, I'll discuss it some more, but the piece about the manager being an employee of the city, I'm not so sure that's something I would agree with.
That's the recommendation of the attorney. I don't really know either way. Why they recommending that,
Right.
but that was their.
Because I don't personally do not want to see, do not look at seeing how the market is run right now to be changing, other than someone just to make sure, like you said, basically helping them, really.
Right.
It is, by doing the marketing from what you're suggesting, or it sounds like you're suggesting.
Yeah, the way it's currently run, I mean, they do a good job, but it has decreased revenue because it decreased. They were in the hole about $10,000 last year.
That was a one-time year, though.
Right.
I mean, they have not had that happen
Right.
in the past, and I think
Right.
this year they'll be fine too.
This year we're projecting that they might break even.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's true. But they don't. There's no tracking of them. It's just they report what they get in, and that's it. There's no accountability whatsoever of how they get it in, or a tracking of what it means. So this would be a way that they could see how they're doing and be able to implement changes to see, okay, if we change it this way, it's going to improve, and they'll be able to better have an idea of how it runs and fluctuations.
Okay. Well, my question is, you said that there would be better tracking and better accountability of what's coming in and what the outlay is, right?
Correct.
Are you saying how much money that they are taking in for their wares, or what are you talking about?
So it's vendor fees.
Vendor fees. And how much are the current vendor fees?
The current vendor fees per week, $15.
$15, okay. I also, as Sue stated, I've got a little problem about it being titled under the city. And the reason for that is because, if I'm not mistaken, the CRA expressly said, and the manager agreed, the city manager agreed, that he did not want any part of directing what the CRA does or anything like that, because that had been a little bit of a bone of contention there. And so for the city attorney to recommend that we put you back under there, even at 0.5%, what you're doing is you're not fulfilling what was told to the people originally. And I've got a problem with that.
Well, I wasn't here in the past.
I
Sorry.
know, I came back from Alaska too, so I understand.
No, you did not.
But, I mean, I just have a problem with that, because that was the whole issue of hiring you, was to keep the things separated and to have you as a person that could report to us and we could direct you.
Well, she's still.
Unless I'm mistaken.
Yeah, she's still gonna be up under the CRA. It's not like the city manager gonna take over and start telling her what to do, trying to run the farmers market.
I think what's happening is the responsibility of the CRA is being moved to the CRA. I mean, the responsibility of the farmers market is being moved to the CRA. Okay. As far as it being the executive director. Now, I do have a problem with an employee of the city. I mean, what they're talking about right now, as far as the manager being part, and that manager's not her, that's somebody else, being an employee of the city. Because
the manager of the farmers market, where we had the two ladies
right.
doing things.
Now that piece I've got a problem with. But as far as our, the CRA being responsible and overseeing the farmer's market, the CRA executive director, I don't have a problem with that because she still is under us.
Okay, that's, I wanted to make sure because I don't wanna rehash.
Just to throw my 2 cents in the argument, I'm fine with the executive director, you know, being part of that, but here's some reservation as far as having a city employee with any oversight, but I do think there needs to be some type of oversight in that.
Sure.
Because right now, I mean, there's nobody that goes out there and says, okay, we've got 20 vendors today. Not saying that there's any improprieties going on, but, you know, managers change. It might be different in years to come. There's nobody that goes out there and says, we've got 20 vendors today. Where's the revenue from? I mean, they pay in cash. What's to say an unscrupulous manager in years to come couldn't just pocket $15 in cash and say, oh, well, we only have 15. There does need to be some oversight out there, and I think some control, since it is city property, it is going to be city and CRA, I mean, funds that build the farmers market pavilion. So, I mean, there should be some type of oversight as far as the city's concerned on it.
I think that's all you're proposing on this one here.
Correct.
You're not doing the day-to-day or the Thursday type of deal. All you're doing is you're gonna help with the publicity of it, the oversight of it, so they have someone to directly report to
Correct.
and do it. And so I think that's all that is doing. You're not changing the functioning of it at all.
No.
You're just putting a person, you're designating a person to basically oversee it. And so I agree with, on the other thing, as far as a city employee, I think that will come up as far as running it.
Correct.
But your aspect of overseeing it and so forth, I think that's, okay.
So I think this discussion came up one time before about someone contract a person becoming, yeah, so I forgot the reason why they wanted to go that way. I just can't remember why. I know something to do with taxes and something else, so, yeah. But that's a discussion for the future.
You done?
All right. Anything else on the amended budget or the proposed budget? We got 20, what's that? 20 minutes.
Take a break and then that gives me time to start it.
Because we can't start till 7:30.
Right.
Who scheduled this thing?
Wasn't I? Not guilty. Okay, so at this time we'll adjourn the, where we at?
I say we have a meeting tomorrow night. It's the only night we're missing. Let's fill it in. Just
At this
I was
time,
kidding, Scott.
at this time we'll adjourn the budget workshop. I ain't gonna start.